I think that junior attorneys in that office are not being mentored. I think senior attorneys need to be working with the younger attorneys, helping them, guiding them along. I think that's why we have a high plea bargaining rate right now, because it's too easy for junior attorneys to sign off on cases rather than having them screened and vetted by the senior attorneys in the office. And this is the effect that it's had. What you see is attorneys not showing up in court that have been cited for contempt of court, hiring folks who have bench warrants for them out in other states. You miss statute of limitations. We've had several high-profile cases in which charges have been lost because the statute of limitation has not been complied with. You haven't been able to get your cases to court within 5 years of the offense. Something's wrong in an office when serious criminal offenses, to include white-collar crime, is not being prosecuted in a timely way. I had an award-winning office when I was in the Air Force because I went to a troubled office myself before. I was sent to troubled offices to try and fix them. I see the same symptoms here that I saw in those offices. There is a lack of internal discipline and rigor in protecting the public's interest. We used to have what we called a war board so that every major case that we had, we could track from the time charges were filed to when motion to dismiss was set up, when summary judgment was set up, when discovery was due. And we're missing discovery deadlines too. Look at the Carrillo case. Discovery deadlines were not met in that case. And so you end up with it having an ill effect on prosecution and people not being defended adequately. The award-winning office I had was at Cannon Air Force Base. It was the only Air Force office that had been awarded the outstanding legal office 2 years in a row under the leadership and the team that I built there. And that's what I want to do, is I want to build a team here to bring this back so we're connected with the community, so we're combating crime, and we're running on an efficient basis for all of you folks out there.
Bill, a rebuttal?
You bet. I think that, again, there are just a lot of misinformation and half-truths and insinuations that just aren't valid. One of the things that's very troubling, and it should be troubling for all of you, is that my opponent raises a specific case that's currently pending in litigation, the Carrillo case. You know, I think there's some ethics involved in that. The other thing involved is that, and the reason I say that is, as a county commissioner, I would think that he'd want to help the criminal justice system be better and not endanger cases. But the fact of the matter is the judge ruled that there was no discovery violation in that case. And so it would behoove my opponent to read the order a little carefully. But let me get into some of his record for you, because it's really hard to go through in 1 minute each detail that he's presented, other than to say that it's just misinformation. You know, he was basically in litigation himself over the ice house cleanup. Here's the deposition that he took. And in that deposition, he stated that his management style was to delegate his authority and to make sure that his county attorney and that his public works directors and that the subordinates did the work, and that he just sort of managed things. In that particular style of management, this county suffered $6.6 million of loss for double paying the ice house cleanup on the judicial building. Now, if that's the kind of management style he's bringing to the DA's office, I just don't think that's going to work. I think one of the big problems that he has is that he likes to spend money. Our county is over $100 million in debt, and we cannot afford many of the things that are going to be coming up in this year's budget and next year's budget because of that, because we have such high debt.
Okay, time, Bill. Okay.
So with that, we'll get into more of that, I'm sure.
Jeff?
If I could respond to that just momentarily, Mr. Hansen. First of all, keep in mind that some of these allegations that are out there and some of the topics that want to be discussed other than criminal justice are a diversion, because the district attorney cannot talk about crime that's gone up. He was told in his Fountain Creek case, which he mistakenly says that he was successful in. The district attorney was not successful in that case. The Sierra Club was successful in that case, and I commend the Sierra Club for doing that. The Sierra Club had standing in that case, and I fully supported them in what they did in obtaining their $35,000 damages award. But the district attorney had no standing in that case and was told that at the trial court level and was told at the appellate court level. In fact, in fairly scathing language, saying this is not the purview of the district attorney's office, yet it was a $700,000 lesson that this county has had to bear. So keep in mind that that's a diversion from talking about crime going up 21% since 2005, and rapes higher at 21%, and aggravated assaults higher at 31%. Can't talk about the district attorney's office, so let's talk about other issues that he thinks are damning.
Can we do one more on that?
Okay, we'll do one more quick rebuttal on this one, and then we're going to move on. Bill?
Well, I think it's interesting that Commissioner Chostner raises the Fountain Creek because he's very cozy with Colorado Springs. He himself approved all those lawyer fees, and if it cost $750,000, it was well worth it, but it didn't. It was about half that. What he doesn't understand is that strategically, we worked with the Sierra Club, and our witnesses actually helped win that case. He spent over $2 million on his Denver lawyer to approve the SDS project, which Judge Reyes recently indicated was not done in accordance with the regulations of the state. So, you know, I think these things are just red herrings, and I'm going to ask you to investigate the facts before you just go along and believe these outrageous statements of misinformation, which is sad from an elected official of our community to just fire off these things without any source or substance.
Jeff?
If I could, again, Fountain Creek is a diversion from talking about criminal justice. But that said, let's talk about that for a moment. Over 50% of the water in Pueblo Reservoir belongs to Colorado Springs. And just as if you were at a landlocked piece of property, you have a right of access to that. We knew that if we went to court for 10 years, that Colorado Springs would ultimately get access to their water. So we entered into negotiations with them, and at the end of that, a permit was issued in which we extracted about $150 million from Colorado Springs Utilities. And if you saw the paper today, another $15 million in roads. So we had $50 million to the Fountain Creek District. We had $75 million in repairs in El Paso County, $6 million in repairs to the dam for the benefit of Pueblo, 1,500 additional acre feet of water to keep the river a living river from the dam to the confluence, and now the $15 million in roads. That is concrete evidence of how you can negotiate effectively, not take a case that's tossed out of court twice and reprimanded essentially by a judge saying you don't have the jurisdiction and standing to be here. As I said in my opening, I get you results and I deliver. I don't waste $700,000 on a fruitless case that a first-year law student could have told you you had no standing with.
Okay, let's move on to another question. Jeff, you'll handle this one first. I mean, we could go like this for a while. Jeff, one of your criticisms of the office is that the DA's office has a damaged relationship with law enforcement. Could you please discuss that?
Yeah,
and then, Bill, you'll get a chance to respond to that.
Okay.
I think if you talk to any of the law enforcement personnel, or virtually any of the personnel here, whether it's the sheriff's office or it's the police office, they will tell you that they have difficulty working with this office. That when they send cases over to the DA's office, nothing happens. Phone calls are not returned. It has got to the point where they will take cases and send them to municipal court, knowing that they can prosecute the cases themselves and get some result out of it, even if it's a slap on the hand, rather than to send it to the DA's office and it just lie fallow in district or county court. So you don't have to believe me. Talk to the law enforcement personnel and they'll tell you the damage is there. And my concern with that is, if you have a demoralized police force, they're not going to do the work as hard or as diligently as they need to perfect cases to get convictions. So the fact that this three-legged stool, the sheriff's office, the police department, and the DA's office is only operating on two legs means that that stool's not upright, means that justice in this town is not being carried out, means that law enforcement is not effective. And you get to the point where you hear people say, if you want to get away with the crime, come to Pueblo, Colorado. I want to, that has been said many times, folks.
Okay,
And all I would say to you is ask our law enforcement personnel. They'll tell you where it's at. Thank you.
okay. Bill?
Well, I hope we can get back to Fountain Creek sometime soon, but right now, what I'd like to say is that Commissioner Chostner sounds an awful lot like a Republican, and how they used to attack John Kerry with that Swift boat stuff. You know, this stuff is just not true. I don't know where he's coming up with all this stuff. You know, on the contrary, we have a great partnership with law enforcement in our community. We have started a monthly meeting with all the chiefs of law enforcement. That's the police, the sheriff, Parks and Wildlife, State Patrol, Bureau of Investigation, federal agencies, the FBI, the ATF, and we talk and discuss our issues on a monthly basis. That's been going on for 7.5 years. Sure, I'm sure there are some disagreements among law enforcement in our office relative to maybe how a case is processed. These are professionals that have disagreements. You yourself in your work, I'm sure, have disagreements with people that you work around, but they're always ironed out in some fashion. We've started a critical incident team where the police investigate in a multi-agency effort incidents that have been perpetrated in our community that involve police officers or law enforcement agencies. A DNA analyst has been approved to help get the information on DNA of crimes that have been committed. You know, when the Doherty gang came through town, you didn't see me in front of the national media trying to get attention. Instead, I was in a room with all law enforcement officers from Los Animas and Huerfano County and Pueblo County trying to figure out who had the jurisdiction to take care of that case. And as you saw in the paper, it was taken care of, and there were convictions, and now they're moving on to Georgia or someplace in Florida. Apparently, what my opponent confuses is that I do not work for law enforcement, I work with law enforcement. And so what you need to understand is that if law enforcement has committed a crime, they too should be prosecuted just like anyone else. However, if they've done right, then our office supports them 100%. And I just don't know where all this other stuff is coming from. And it's easy to say that because nobody's here to tell you two sides of the story.
Okay. Before we go to the rebuttals, it's pretty obvious that both candidates can defend themselves pretty well. So I would ask you to refrain from the booing and the hissing and so forth. And whether you agree or disagree, let them handle it, please. Okay, let's go to the rebuttals. Jeff?
Yeah, just to answer that, if indeed those meetings are taking place, then why has it taken 7 years for it to happen? It should have been happening a long time ago. And again, if you think that there's a breakdown or you don't believe that there's a breakdown, I encourage you to talk to the police officers, and they'll tell you how well they think that they work with this office. I do ride-alongs. I've done this since I was in the service. I do ride-alongs with the sheriff's office. I do ride-alongs with the police department. I was told at one crime scene last summer that it was the first time that they've had a district attorney or somebody who wanted to be a DA show up in a long time at one of these. I think you have to have that kind of open communication with law enforcement to let them know that you're on your side. This is an adversarial process. A DA is to be an advocate for the victims of crime. That's what you're there for. While we're all there to do justice, and I spent 25 years defending the Constitution of the United States, and I still do. That's our job. That's what we should do. But you also know that you have to be an advocate for the downtrodden, for the victims of crime. And that's where I'll always be, on the side of the community and making sure this is a safer community.
Should I say some more?
Bill?
I just asked Steve if I should say some more. You know, it's really dangerous for district attorneys to go on ride-alongs. There's a lot of liability questions, and you can also inject yourself into a case where you become a witness. Not that it's a bad thing to do, it's just something I've chosen not to do. Many of our deputies do it, but we're very